If you grew up watching regular show, you know about regular show, you're familiar with it, or you're currently watching it right now, then this video is for you.
What's going on, Fizz Gang? The fizziest of the fizziest in the game. Let's go.
Subscribe to log in and watch the video to the end. So if you know a bit about regular show, congratulations. If you grew up watching regular show, congratulations, because you had some of the best epic years of your life, right? So I'm going to be talking about regular show, to be specific, and there's one particular episode that I'm going to be focusing on, which is the babysitting episode, where Muscle Man was babysitting his niece or whatever, but he was supposed to be babysitting. Né? So there's a video, this one, where he was supposed to be babysitting, I think, his niece, because it was his girlfriend and his girlfriend's sister. They were leaving to go play golf or something, so he was supposed to stay with the baby, right? And after they left, Muscle Man, typical guy, typical nigga, he wanted to watch a show on TV, and he went for monster truck shows. He wanted to watch a show about monster trucks and explosions and everything. But before he got to his show, he stumbled across an episode of some cartoons that it seemed his niece preferred to watch as she was a kid, right? So Loki, stay with me. So he saw the episode and he thought it was cringe and weird, and he passed to the next channel, which is where he came across the monster truck episode, and then he thought this was the show for him. So he wanted to watch the show. But since the younger sister already saw the kids show, and she saw Muscle Man pass that show, she started crying, right? So we're gonna talk about specifically that part, why she started crying. But I think for normality, we know that kids cry when it's their form of communication when maybe something is not pleasant to them, or they just want something to go their way, so they will often end up crying, right? But then Muscle Man started freaking out when the baby now was crying, and started asking the kid if she was hungry, or she made a mess in her diaper and whatever, and he started freaking out. And at the end of it, while she was still crying, he turned back to the cartoon show of those Huxtables, right? That apparently was a cartoon kids show of those small little devils that were hugging people, and they would explode. It was hugging different monsters, right? And Muscle Man now was forced to watch that episode with the kid, a kid who didn't have any clue of maybe logic or couldn't understand what was happening. The kid was just fascinated by the colors she was seeing, and Muscle Man, being an adult, understood that was kind of cringe for him to watch. But peep game and log into this part, right? So for some of you guys who are very, very vigilant, or who are just on social media, you know about the popular show Cocomelon, right? So I'm going to be talking about Cocomelon in relation to regular show, right? Because I think regular show was trying to give us some game. It was trying to let us know something, right? So I'm going to go quickly into the episode of when Muscle Man was babysitting, because he watched countless hours of that episode up until it really stuck into his brain, right? And then the following day, when he went to sleep, he started crashing out and having night fights and sleepwalking. This is where he went into Mordecai and Rigby's room and started punching them and fighting them. But he was sleep fighting because he was freaked out by that episode, right? So he was a crash out now because of that specific episode. The reason why he was doing that was because of that one show he watched, that he found cringe, and he watched, right? Which was the Huxtables episode, right? And then the reason why I wanted to put those two together is, if you are updated about what's going on with kids and Cocomelon and everything, and the side effects, the dark side effects that Cocomelon has on the developing brains of kids, you know that it leaves a noticeable side effect when the kids are watching and not watching Cocomelon, and how they crash out and freak out when they want to watch Cocomelon, right? Because of those bright saturated colors Cocomelon has. The same show that Muscle Man was watching had a lot of pink in it, right? So I think it was one of those things that could be identified in that show, that it was a very colorful kind of show, and only the kid was fascinated by that show, that if she didn't watch that show, she would crash out and cry. And when she saw it, she stopped crying. It's the same thing that is happening to these iPad kids that we now know of. You give them an iPad, they're good to go. You take it away from them, they start crashing out, they start breaking stuff, they start being so violent and just being complete crash dummies, right? So that's the first thing I identified with these two shows, right? Which is kind of crazy to me. But okay, the thing that I did identify was how Muscle Man became very, very strong after he was sleeping and they tied him up, and they were just trying to analyze how he was responding to his nightmares, because he started having nightmares about that show, and then he started being very, very strong and very, very violent. And then second thing that I wanted to identify with that is there's a particular episode where they are watching him over the TVs, over that surveillance van, and they tied him up on the bed. They installed a lot of cameras on that. And I feel like that one scene where there's multiple cameras just looking at him, and while he's sleeping, is the same thing that goes on with TikTok and these parents taking a video of their kids when they crash out and uploading that video on TikTok, because there's multiple cameras, there's multiple people just shooting the same kind of kids that crash out from cocomelon and put that on TikTok, which is the same thing that was happening on that one episode. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that's kind of crazy. And this is just a conspiracy that I came up with, not that this is factual, because it hasn't been proven yet, but this is just a conspiracy that I came up with. And let me know if you think I'm tripping or not. But there seems to be so much similarity between these two shows that somehow it feels like regular show was trying to tell us something, that this was going to be happening. A kids show that's so colorful, makes adults cringe, makes kids crash out. It's the same thing that happened in regular show that is now happening with the popular kids show cocomelon. And if you go and study the effects that cocomelon really has on the minds of developing kids, you will see that it's the same thing that somehow happened to Muscle Man. And Muscle Man was showing the same symptoms that the iPad kids are showing nowadays. So I don't know about you guys, but are we headed into a world where now people are just going to be mental crash dummies and crash out because of a kids show, a colorful kids show, or just all of these shows that we are seeing now, because they're mostly targeted at a younger audience, right? So like and subscribe and tell me what you think about this video, bro, if I'm tripping or not.